Hello and welcome to Oak Road Hatter, where I'm Finlay Cadden and I'm joined by Adam Driscoll as we discuss back-to-back wins for Luton Town and the final two games as we head into the end of the season. How are you doing, Adam?
Yeah, good. Thank you, mate. I'm feeling positive as we record on the same day as a win, which we don't often do. So yeah, I'm feeling good, and I guess equally anxious to the weekend already because we've kept the dream alive, we've kept ourselves going, but it means 3 or 4 days of staring at the league table and wondering and thinking about every scenario that's going to be possible. So yeah, anxious still, but in a good place.
Yeah, it's been a very good bank holiday weekend for Luton Town and our fans with a 1-0 win away at Derby County on Friday, followed up by a 3-1 win at home to Bristol City. And we were talking all about that. But before that, don't forget to check us out on social media. That's at Oak Road Hatter on all your social media platforms where you can find up-to-date content that we're producing. But we'll get straight into things and we'll actually start with that briefly on that win at Derby. Obviously, it was on Friday, so it was a game we looked at ahead of it, and we said that it's basically win or bust in that game. And I think that turned out to be the case in the game. And we put in a very, very solid defensive performance, and probably as good of a away performance as you could ask for, really, getting the one goal and then just holding on for with a lot of defenders on the pitch at times. I think at one point we had 6 players that can play centre back on the pitch at once. So it was a defensively resolute performance with
Yeah,
McInness
yeah,
at the centre of that completely.
yeah. It was huge, wasn't it? I think we spoke in previewing it about it is do or die time, or whatever phrase you kind of want to use. It was absolutely a must win for us. It wasn't a case of go there and get a point because it's just another game that would have been ticked off. So it was a huge opportunity, and obviously we took it. I think it certainly wasn't a game that you're going to watch back for you know moments of quality football. It was scrappy. It was bodies on the line. It was a case of whoever got the first goal, would then do everything to kind of slow the game down and just make it horrible. And we are obviously, we were fortunate that it was us that got that first goal, and I guess we could then shift that mindset in terms of, you know, do everything you possibly can to not concede. And I know we're obviously not going to go on it for too long, but there was there was some brilliant performances defensively. I think probably McGuinness's best game for us in terms of body on the line. Countless times throwing himself at the ball, and he certainly, yeah, he certainly proved his value and showed why we paid good money for him. So really pleased for him in that sense. But generally it was just a really good defensive performance, and everybody dug in, and we came away with a much needed win, and that momentum going into today's game as well.
And you could really feel how important that result was in the ground at Derby with a sold out away end. We've not had as many sold out away ends in the league this season, which is understandable. But with it being a bank holiday, I think that really helped that. Um, it was a brilliant atmosphere, particularly at full time, where Luton fans weren't really bothered if if they had to leave or not when the stadium was emptying out. They were just singing the entire way out of the ground with Alli's name right at the centre of that because he popped up with another goal for us.
Yeah, and he took it well. It's obviously a scrappy goal in terms of, obviously it falls very fortunately to him, but you still have to have that composure to put it away, even if it is sort of 5-6 yards out. And he had that, and he's sort of come up trumps a couple of times now in terms of important goals. I think he got a very late goal at Stoke the other week, which gave us a point, and much needed as you look at the table. So yeah, fair play to him. He's finding himself in the right place, and having that composure, and let's hope that we're singing his song and singing his name, once or twice more before the season finishes as well.
And that goal celebration is something else, isn't it? But it reminds me of someone who previously played an important role for keeping us up in the Championship, and that was Loire.
Yeah.
That backwards handspring or whatever it was is very, very impressive, but I'm not sure how Bloomfield feels about him pulling one of those out in a
Yeah.
game
Yeah.
when we're already pretty light on attackers as it is, and whipping those out. I'm sure Bloomfield might be asking him to slow down on those handsprings, but yeah, even that's executed to perfection, and I think you could see how much it meant to the players. Not only after that goal went in, but at full time, the players sprinted over to the away end, celebrated in a way that I've not actually seen them celebrate in a long time, even when we have won games. Every single player was right over to the away end, apart from McInness and Alli, who got dragged over for an interview, despite those two being the two players that fans wanted to serenade most, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the players aren't daft. I think pre-game, pre-derby game, I think it was Jordan Clark saying they understand the kind of the how enormous that game is, and like essentially saying we understand the repercussions if we don't win it. Um, so that they clearly know, they know this scenario. It doesn't mean to say you're going to go out and win the game, obviously, but that's obviously come out when we have won the game. The relief and that sharing that moment with the fans in terms of us being still alive in the season is and was massive. And I know we're going to talk about the Bristol City game today, but I think you know it's just about carrying momentum through to the next game right now. And had we drawn that in the last minute or something, I think you got a very different body language and feel around the club, and obviously a very different feeling going into today as well. So yeah, it's massive that we won that. Obviously, we've won today. We've got another home game in a few days' time against the team that will come out and play because they are needing to secure their playoff place. And it's just about carrying that momentum through fans, players, and everyone, and seeing what we can do on Saturday to come as well.
Yeah, we've seen our upturn in form towards the end of the season coincide with an upturn in form with the rest of the teams around us, frustratingly. But on Friday at Derby, it felt a bit different. It felt like we had got the result we needed, and a lot of the teams around us had actually not done that. Apart from, I think Plymouth got a win, and they went on to win again today against Coventry, if I'm right in thinking. So it has been. It was good to also see the results going our way for once when we really needed that to be the case to keep us in the hunt, because now it looks like there's more than just ourselves and Derby in this race to survive. It's potentially also got Hull in it as well, and even maybe Plymouth already in the relegation zone with their results turning as well.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the table in terms of that, like that form block, I think our win at Derby, I think everybody around us lost. Um, if I'm reading that right, I know Plymouth lost in the last minute at Borough, but it looks like obviously everybody around us lost on that day, and that's something we've not really had in terms of our form being okay. But we've spoken about this before, that everybody else has been picking up points. So we needed like 1 or 2 days or a day where we got maximum points and other teams didn't. Again, like we'll come on to today, but it just goes to show, doesn't it, the championship, how mad it is in terms of us winning today, and I think countless other teams winning as well. Plymouth, Hull, Derby. I think Oxford got a point, didn't they, at Cardiff? Um, so yeah, we've got 3 points today as well, but it's not it's not sour today, is it? But it's like you just really wanted another day where we got points and everybody else didn't. But it's obviously, yeah, not to be.
Yeah, and we'll talk about today's result as well, because as you looked into the game, we were without Naismith, who'd been brilliant against Derby, and you could understand the decision then when you thought about it, why Walsh didn't play, and Naismith played in that midfield role because he was unable to play against Bristol City. And we saw a few changes to the team as well, because Clark also wasn't in the side. You saw Mengi come in from the start as well. So there was a few changes there, and in general, it looked like everyone performed well in the second half, I would say, because the first half was a very much a forgettable game of football from both sides. There wasn't really much to talk about from that first half, which was a 0-0.
Yeah, first half was pretty dull. I actually, do you know what? I thought Bristol City. We've seen them countless times down at Kenilworth Road, but I thought it was the best Bristol City team I can remember for a while that have come to us. I thought they knocked the ball around really well. I thought they had control of midfield. I don't think we really won enough second balls. They seem to be able to play kind of a central pass from wide into the middle of the pitch, and I think it was the ex Oxford fella in midfield. I can't remember his name, but he seemed to have acres of space, and yeah, it was a bit frustrating that I think we were sort of lacking that presence in the middle of midfield. And that was really kind of how the first half went, without too much else going on. Um, but then obviously second half the game's burst into life, and we'll go and dissect everything that happened, because there's yeah, quite a lot that we need to talk about, I suppose, from the second half alone.
Yeah, it was a busy second half, we'll say, with the opening goal for us obviously coming through Tello Asgard in what was a, a good a good strike from him. He's been a player who you've seen really step up in recent weeks, and we've spoke about him quite a few times, but he really looked like he was trying to make things happen in this game. As he was against Derby, we just had more of the ball today, and he was much more effective with it, and he was able to give us that lead. But in what has seemed like something that's happened over and over again for the last two seasons, really, is we scored and the opposition scored immediately after that.
Yeah, it's just so Luton, isn't it? Like I remember saying to you and Jamie a couple of months ago now. I genuinely think if you looked at the stats, we'd be right up there with the team that concedes the quickest after they score, and that's me thinking back as far as I can remember, like 20 odd, 25, 26 years. It's just I just think that is us. Like I'd be amazed if there was a team that averaged a quicker conceding goal, but yeah, I think it's not ideal by any means. You wanna go one up. You want to try and get that second goal, um, and really kick on. I think if anything, the goal for them made us sort of keep progressing, and keep kind of attacking. I think when we scored our goal, I was a bit conscious of, are we going to go into our shell, and is it going to be sort of like half an hour or so of defending? But obviously, when they score straight away, you can't do that. We have to go out and win the game. So maybe it was a help in that sense. I mean, we're not going to complain about it, are we? Having won the game. But on Asgard's goal, I don't know what you thought, and obviously anyone listening, but from where I was watching it, it seemed like the keeper made a right howler of it. Just, I know he's hit it pretty well, and it's obviously skidded on a quite a slick surface, but I think if you're O'Leary in goal, you're wanting to do a lot better with that shot, and just get something behind it, and push it out to safety. Really,
Yeah, initially it looks like it's a really good finish, and then you see it again, and he just doesn't seem to get anywhere near it, despite the fact it
mm.
being pretty close to him, which was really surprising given the first half save he made, where I don't know how he managed to stretch down to his bottom corner to get that ball that I think actually came off his own defender, um, and was looking like it was going into the bottom corner. He managed to pull off a ridiculous save in the first half. For them to go and concede that goal in the second half, it was pretty unusual, yeah. But their goal that they equalised with was a fantastic strike, wasn't it?
it was. You can't. You can look at elements of how we can do better. You can't, you can't blame anyone really, in terms of Kaminsky or anything like that. Like, it's a quality finish. I think what you can question is, can Mengi do better? Um, can he head it in a different direction, or yeah, like, can he basically not head it onto the guy's volley, and the guy puts it in the bottom corner, I suppose. But it's one of those, isn't it? If we have that presence in midfield at that point, and we've got someone that's in and around Tanner, and it doesn't give him that opportunity to strike a sweet volley, then you probably look at it and go, it's a good headed clearance because we have a body there. It turns out there's no one within about 20 yards of Tanner, and he hits a sweet right-footed volley, probably the best one he's ever hit in his life, and puts it in the bottom corner. So yeah, it was frustrating, but as I say, I think it helped us in the sense that we had to get straight back on the front foot rather than just sort of seeing how the game progressed at 1-0 up, really.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, we had to get straight back on the front foot, and we did pretty quickly after that. With Carlton Morris finally getting on the score sheet, and I'm sure it is his first goal in 2025, which is, if that is the case, which I believe is the case, that's what I've seen banded around a bit, then it's pretty surprising. And I'm just looking through some of the games here, and he hasn't scored before that since Derby at home was the last goal he had. So it was his first goal of 2025, and it was a clever finish after Mengi sort of had an effort blocked or deflected, and it came back to Morris, and he managed to hook it into that near post area and just managed to beat everyone. It was actually a very clever finish, and it was strange that he didn't really celebrate. I think it was almost relief for him. You'd think that he finally scored and he'd finally got that off his back. But it was so important that we got that goal, and you could see we really grew into the game.
Yeah, definitely. I think someone said to me that the last goal was Derby 29th of December or something for Morris. So crikey, you think that's nearly 4 months without a goal, and he's played a lot of football for us. He's not been out injured. So there'll be a massive amount of relief for him. I mean, the goal itself is like unbelievably scrappy, isn't it? Like it's just pinball. You're either waiting for a Derby boot to the halfway line, or you're waiting for the net to go. It was just one of those scenarios, and obviously, again, we're fortunate that Morris got his foot around it, and the sort of strikers finish that we know he's got in his locker. Um, you wonder whether for him personally, we're talking about like momentum for the team and the club, but can Morris sort of take that and go, right? Okay, well, I've got my goal, and can I go and grab another one or two between between now and the end of the season? Because we need him. We do need him firing really when we are if we're going to score enough goals to win these games.
Yeah, with Eli out injured, which looks like it's going to be a very, very long time. He's obviously had surgery. He'll be incredibly important, not just for the final few games we've got now, but if he stays past the summer, then you can see him being vital wherever we are next season. Hopefully that is in the Championship again, because we know how good he can be when he's hit form and when he's playing consistently well. And the last couple of games, he really has looked much more like the Colton Morris that we saw last season and the last time we were in the Championship. The final goal was from Isiah Jones, and it was, let's just talk about that finish, because I don't know if you could ask for a better finish if you tried. He managed to hit into the roof of the net and the side netting in the same finish, and it just looked absolutely spectacular when you saw it. And then you see it back again, and it looks even better. Every time you look at that goal, the technique just seems slightly better, and he's stepped up a bit more of recent weeks, as has everyone in the team. I think it's just collectively we've been much better, and I think since we lost Alfie again, he's almost had a bit more freedom getting forward, particularly when Bell's playing, and he's really seems to be benefiting from that.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, I thought he had a really, really quiet and a little bit of a poor game up to that point. I think there was a few times he sort of, gave the ball away really easily. He wasn't really having the impact that I think we've seen or maybe expect now on that right wing. And then obviously, ironically, he's around the time that he scored, he really started to sort of get in the game. Progressing up that right hand side by the dugouts. I mean, what a finish! I mean, everyone loves a goal that sort of cracks in off the underside of the crossbar. I was wondering if he was ever going to pull the trigger at one point because the covering defender seemed to be getting closer and closer and further across. But yeah, I think he's sort of waiting for the keeper to kind of commit a little bit. And yeah, fair play. What a finish. Much needed. I can't remember the last time we had a 2-goal lead in a game. Certainly can't remember the last time we scored 3. Um, so it sort of, I think you could sense a bit of relief when we got 2 goals ahead, and and then obviously we had a very shortly after that we had a situation with, I think it was Mengi bringing down Sinclair Armstrong, who was like 1-on-1, and we'll touch on it very briefly, but the referee today is awful, and I think he's got that one wrong as well. I mean, I think it was one of two things. It was either a foul and a penalty and a red card, or it was a penalty and a yellow card. Because apparently you can't do this double punishment thing. Like they won't give a pen and send someone off. So I don't know where the foul quite started, but he's missed a clanger there, the referee, and that would have made it very interesting because that would have been probably 3-2, potentially us down to 10, or certainly certainly 3-2. And it would have made a very nervy last 25 minutes, but I think we've got away with one there, and obviously managed to see out the rest of the game as well.
Yeah, to me it looked well on the replays. Initially, it looked like it was inside the box, and I think everyone just waited for the ref to just give a penalty. They just assumed that a penalty would be coming, and then he didn't give anything. And then you think, oh, maybe he's playing an advantage or something, but he wasn't doing that.
Yeah,
And then you see the replay, and he has Mengi has quite clearly caught him. I don't know if it's his leading foot or his trailing foot he's caught, but he has brought him down. I think looking at it again, I think the contact is just outside the area. So arguably, we're probably more lucky that the ref hasn't seen it because we'd have lost Mengi and he's stepped up since he returned from injury in the last couple of games. But also, we know what it can get like when we concede a goal to bring one back. It could have been, yeah, it could have been backs to the wall at that point. So yeah, we're very lucky that it was another off day for a championship referee, who I'm sure would be very welcome back to Kenilworth Road. Ironically, after that, unlike some of the other refs we've had, but yeah, I'm sure Bristol fans will be incredibly annoyed with them trying to consolidate that playoff place. Um, yeah, you just wonder how they've come to that decision because the linesman also could have flagged for it, could have made the decision, helped him with it, but yeah, nothing. They came to nothing in the end.
yeah, but he was shocking all game. Like he was petty at the wrong times. Like I think early in the game he kept letting Bristol City's will be their left back um, like march up and down the line for a throw in, and yet the first throw in we get, he puts his hand out as if to say, that would do, that's enough, that's where you need to take it from. But I just thought he was really poor, and I think he was poor for both teams. And obviously, yeah, the biggest talking point will be that Armstrong um, scenario, and he got that wrong as well. So I'm not that fussed about it because obviously we've won the game, but he was he was just so poor. But how many times have we actually sat here and said, "Oh, the referee was good today," or "Fair play to the referee"? They're kind of few and far between, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, and I think we're just fortunate for once it's gone in our favour, whereas we've seen a lot this season when it hasn't. Or we've also seen games. I think the Leeds game springs to mind where they were just terrible in both directions. So it's yeah, I couldn't tell you the last time we actually had a very good refereeing performance. I think the best ones are the ones you don't have to talk about at all. Which yeah, I could not remember that. How important is not just this win, but getting two back to back for our survival hopes? We've obviously mentioned how key it is that we've picked up when other teams have picked up results as well.
Yeah, it's huge momentum. It's just all about momentum now. We're running out of games. We're obviously still in the relegation zone on quite a hefty goal difference, which I'm hoping isn't going to be our downfall because yeah, the goals conceded pre Bloomfield, uh, it doesn't look good, does it? In terms of that, like -23, and you compare that to Derby and Hull -9 as we sit right now. That's essentially worth a point. But it's so big. It's so big. I mean, regardless of what other teams are doing, we have to keep ourselves in with a chance. And we're probably a little bit unfortunate that those 2 wins in a row haven't seen us jump out of the relegation zone. But every team is fighting for their life, and that goes to show you today how mad the championship is and how mad we know it is as well. So look, it's massive. It's it just keeps us alive and believing. And the funny thing about Saturday coming as well is that we kick off at 12:30, um, and there's only 2 games at 12:30, which is us, Coventry, QPR, Burnley. So we have an opportunity there before anybody else in the relegation battle plays at 3 o'clock to get points on the board. And again, like we keep sort of saying every game is a must win, every game is massive. Everyone's anxiety is just pushing through to the next few days. But Saturday is a huge opportunity for us to jump out the relegation zone before anyone else kicks a ball in terms of that battle, and to really put the pressure on them. And then obviously you've got Hull playing Derby, so you've got at least one of those dropping points. So it's just it's massive, isn't it? It's so big, and I just really hope that the momentum of the last few weeks just keeps us ticking through to Saturday, and we can get another 3 points there as well.
There's somewhat of an irony to it that the next game we've got in this run in to survive, and arguably you could say it's maybe the most important with the other games that's taken place, is against Coventry because of, well, the recent history we have against Coventry with the playoff final, and the last time we played them this season when we went 2-0 up, which is actually the last time we went 2-0 up, I think, and lost 3-2. That was on my birthday, and I remember
Oh,
that
that's
being a
lovely.
pretty terrible way to end a birthday day out at the football. But Coventry fans will be looking at this going, "Oh, we've actually got an opportunity to not only consolidate our playoff position, but to potentially end Luton stay in the Championship." So it's absolutely huge, and it's almost everything's just coming around to almost one place yet again. And Coventry will be looking at it going, knowing they need to win because
Mm.
both Middlesbrough and Millwall are just 3 points behind them. So they'll be looking to not only close that gap but potentially go above them. If Middlesbrough were to win and Coventry weren't, they'd actually go above Coventry, whereas Millwall would probably not because of their goal difference. So it's huge at both ends of the table. And you'd look at the championship, and it seems to be the case every season that it's just towards the end of the season when you look at the Premier League and there's everything sort of wrapped up in terms of relegation and the title. The 2 automatic places was decided today, obviously, with Leeds and Burnley going up, but everything else is still to play for in the Championship with 2 games to go. And yeah, it will be a huge day on Saturday at both ends of the table.
Yeah, I think the irony is that this Coventry game coming for us is the biggest game we've had since Coventry in the playoff final. Like the Premier League season was great, and we had some fantastic moments and occasions, but this feels like another make or break, well, slightly make or break game in our season in terms of how much control we do or don't have going into the last game of the season. So yeah, it's just slightly ironic that it's probably our biggest game, since that playoff final against the same opposition. It's just a funny old league, isn't it? Like I'm looking at the table now. Coventry have lost 16 games. It's a heck of a lot of games. I mean, we've lost 22, which is only 6 more, and yet we're sitting in the bottom 3, and they're sitting in the playoff places. Um, so it's mental, really. It's just a crazy league, but certainly one I'd rather be in next season than the one below.
Yeah, it's absolute chaos. And we're going to be talking a bit more about that Coventry game after we go to a quick break. And we'll be touching on that and also looking ahead to Matt Bloomfield's future come the end of the season. We'd love to know your thoughts on everything we've discussed in the first half of the pod, so let us know in the comments, and we'll be back with you shortly. Welcome back to Oak Road Hatter, where I'm still joined by Adam Driscoll, and we're looking ahead a bit more to that visit of Coventry City on Saturday to come. So it's a third game in pretty quick succession for us and for every team in the division, to be fair. And as we've already mentioned, it's a Coventry side that will be desperate to keep hold of that playoff spot because it will be third time of asking this season, going up through the playoffs. Obviously, the first time we put a stop to that in the final. And you look at because of their recent results, they now haven't got that place consolidated because they lost 3-1 to Plymouth today, which was probably a surprise to most people, although Plymouth have been pretty good at home for parts of the season. There's been sometimes this season where they've been really good at home, other times where they've just disappeared completely, like they have been away from home. So it's a difficult one to predict what they're going to do, what they will do against each other. But you look at us, and you'd like to think we might be the slight favourites going into this game because we're at home.
Yeah, probably that and the form that we're in as well. I mean, I can't quite believe that result today for Coventry. Like, I'm quite a big fan of some of the players they've got, and I look at their midfield, and they've got like Matt Grimes, and then they've got like Redoni, Hadji Wright, Ellis Sims, um, like Sheaf's on the bench. Like he got on 15 minutes today, and I'm not. Yeah, I can't quite believe they've lost to Plymouth, but they're gonna have to bounce back, aren't they? So we're gonna need to be on guard and on our form because again, this is the team that could secure their playoff place if they win and other results go their way on Saturday. So I'm pretty sure they're not going to want it to go to the last game of the season. It's going to be another big test. But then I'd rather be playing a team that are going to come with intent and not waste time and muck around, and a team that's got something to play for, and that's going to try and be on the front foot. I think you'd rather that than you would a team that are just on their summer holidays already on the beach, and that are probably there more to frustrate us than anything else. So yeah, looking forward to it. I've said this about 3 times already. Already anxious about it, and nervous about it, but it's a massive opportunity for us kicking off in the early kickoff as well.
Yeah, and I have only just remembered that it's an early kickoff, so I'm glad we've discussed that because I could well have turned up and missed the game. Um, yeah, you mentioned Jack Redoni there, and since Frank Lampard came in, he's really stepped up. You look at his stats this season, and a large part of his contribution in terms of his goals and assists have come since Lampard came in, particularly in the last 10 or so games. And he's got 12 assists and 7 goals this season, which does really remind you of someone like Lampard. And you saw it when he was in charge of Derby as well, when he obviously had Mason Mount. And he loves that attacking midfielder that he can almost replicate into a slightly worse version of himself. No disrespect to obviously to Redoni, but obviously Frank Lampard did things far beyond most players could even dream of. But he's really stepped up since then. And you've obviously mentioned their midfield with Matt Grimes, who has essentially taken the place of Ben Sheaf, who many at the start of the season were tipping with a move to a lot of different sides, including ourselves. So it's
Yeah,
quite interesting that he's been able to sort of develop that team in a way that he wants it to play. With Hadji Wright contributing with 12 goals this season as well. And I think he's a player that many people have been surprised by how effective he has been in front of goal.
yeah. Again, I like. They've just got some really good individual players, and you mentioned like Jack Redoni there. Uh, Definitely someone. I think we were after him, weren't we, when he was getting sold by Wimbledon or was leaving Wimbledon on a free. Um, I think he went to Huddersfield and did all right, did pretty well. Obviously, stayed in the Championship despite their relegation. And you're right, like he is a Lampard type footballer in terms of attacking midfield and goals from midfield. So there's not many better players for him to learn off than Frank Lampard. Now, obviously, I hope on Saturday, like today, he has an off day and doesn't do anything. But he's certainly one that we need to keep an eye on and watch. The other one that I'm going to call out, and I called him out when he played against us earlier in the season, is Matt Grimes. Like he was Swansea's best player by a million miles. He's one of the best defensive midfielders in the league, and if you give him enough time and space and opportunity, he will run the game around you. as well as score, and he did that already this season at Kenilworth Road. So he's definitely one that we're going to have to get a grip of in midfield, and we're going to have to be sharper and more aggressive in midfield than we were in the first half of today's game.
And we're going to have to be more solid in defence and keep control of the ball much better than we did when we went to them last time, and we obviously lost 3-2, as we've briefly mentioned, because we really threw that one away last time we played them, and we need to be as solid as we possibly can. Although the last time we played them, it was that weird stage where they just got rid of Mark Robbins, so no one really knew what was happening at that point. So it's very much different circumstances. I'm not sure anyone would have thought that, 2 years on from the playoff final, neither side has the same manager in charge.
Yeah, it just goes to show, doesn't it, how crazy things are. And in our scenario, I was chatting to Justin on the fan network the other week, and he sort of said, "Well, if Luton get relegated, do you lay any blame at Bloomfield's door?" And I just don't see how we can. He's come in and done pretty well. I think we've won 5 of the last 10. I like what he's about. I'm just praying that you talk about managerial changes, but I just really pray that we haven't left it too late, because I think there's something good that's kind of blossoming under Bloomfield, and it needs to be continued next season at this level.
Yeah, I think it's been discussed quite often, but Bloomfield seems more willing to change during games and change the system as well. I think we've seen that particularly.
Yeah.
Obviously, he started off coming in and trying his 4 at the back, and it wasn't working. So he did revert to that back 3 or that back 5, which has seen us pick up some results recently. And also, we look far more solid defensively than we have done in a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I think we moaned a lot in the first half of the season about the 3 or the /5 at the back. It wasn't working under Edwards. We had zero control in midfield, and that's probably the reason why we moaned about it so much in terms of getting another body in there and playing 4 at the back. You know, different managers can play the same formation in different ways, and we've certainly benefited from going back to that under Bloomfield. I mean, we talked when Bloomfield was employed, when he started at Luton. We looked at some stats, and it was like 80% of his games at Wickham and Colchester had been with a 4 at the back formation. So he's clearly not that stubborn in that he won't change, and he's changed us for the better with the same formation. And I think we've really started to see some, consistently solid performances from the likes of Walsh and Clark and Asgard as well in midfield.
Yeah, and the players that we were giving a lot of criticism to at the start of the season, so that the ones I'm thinking of in particular are McInness and Walsh, as we've mentioned previously, on multiple occasions, are now stepping up and being some of the most consistent performers in the side. So I think that's huge credit to both them and to Bloomfield for keeping trust in them as well.
Yeah, definitely. And players are starting to understand their roles and their responsibilities. And we've already mentioned McInness and how good he was at Derby. I thought he was pretty good again today. So everything's starting to settle down, and there's players there that really have cemented their position for the rest of the season, and obviously played the last few games as well. Um, and the irony is that if we do stay up, they aren't the sort of players that I'd be looking to replace in the summer. They're players that you want to keep hold of. You want to change a few things and get that depth and a few fresh faces and things like that. But we have good footballers at the club, and it's just crucial that we stay in this league and we do a little bit of tweaking in the summer and build so that we're just not in this position again. And I personally, I think if we stay out this season, I think there will be certain things addressed, and I don't think we would be in the same position at all next season.
Yeah, so you certainly expect that to be the case. We'll just touch on something else to do, obviously, with Matt Bloomfield. Obviously, he came in much later than we expected in terms of the results that were in the first half of the season. A lot of people expected Edwards to go after that 5-1 defeat at Middlesbrough, particularly the way he spoke after that game. And then he stayed until, obviously, that 2-1 away defeat at QPR. And it just seemed to take so long for a change to happen. Do you think if it had happened sooner, we wouldn't be in the position we're in now.
I do. I was a massive fan of Edwards for the most part, and yeah, it wasn't obviously nice to see him get sacked, but it was done far too late, and there'll be reasons that we don't know as to why it was delayed, but I'm guessing it was finances and how much of his contract, and yeah, just it'll be a financial sort of agreement. There was obviously a bit of money difference between Middlesbrough and QPR, but then you've got to think, well, how much relegation is potentially or would potentially cost us, and I think even a few years ago when we were in a relegation battle in the Championship, the figure back then was about 8 million difference in revenue between the two leagues. It's probably more than that now. So yeah, I think it was certainly done far too late. And I do think, in answer to your question, had Bloomfield come in a couple of months before, I think we'd probably be nearer to the likes of sort of Watford and Sheffield Wednesday, and we'd be one of those teams with nothing to play for now.
Which we'd really love to be the case at this stage of the season. I'd much rather have nothing to play for than what we're currently dealing with. But I guess we're going to have to rise to the top of a relegation battle at this point. And now Bloomfield seems to have won the fans over as well. I think you've seen him get out, give some fist pumps at the ends of the games. At Derby and obviously today as well. The ones at the end of Derby are obviously the emotion at the full time from all the players, and I think that's probably what led to that. And then maybe he enjoyed doing the fist pumps because he did it again today. So he certainly won the fans over as well, and I think that's absolutely crucial. Jamie obviously can't join us today, but he did leave a question for us to discuss, and that was, he basically asked, if we go down, does Bloomfield stay? And I think the obvious answer has to be yes.
Yeah, I mean, we'll cover it because there is still the very real scenario that we could get relegated. Like we can't hide behind that. But you'll guess that my opinion on Bloomfield is quite positive. So for me, he absolutely stays. They've put their trust in him to try and get us out of this mess this season. You can't discard him because he's not been able to turn around essentially someone else's mess. So without a doubt, he stays. And if we get relegated, you've got to back him. Like you've just got to give him the funds and the backing to keep the players he wants to keep. Some of whom probably would be looking for moves, but you've got to essentially give him that financial backing to make sure that he's well supported and that we would get back at the first attempt. So yeah, without a doubt, he's definitely the man that we need, and he has my full support.
And I agree with that, and I'm sure most people listening probably agree with that, but we'd love to know what your thoughts are on that. So whether we stay up or go down, should Bloomfield stay on next season? Let us know in the comments or on social media. That's at Oak Hatter. Just before we go, Adam, I just want to do quick score predictions for Coventry. I usually make you start, but I'm actually going to go first this time. And I think we're going to win 2-1. And I think it'll be, unfortunately, I do think it's going to be quite a late goal to win it, which I'd rather it wasn't, but I think it will be.
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines, if I'm honest. Yeah, I think it'll be a harder game. And I don't expect them to be as poor as they probably were today at Plymouth. So I'm going to be positive, going to keep that ounce of positivity going that I've got, and I'm going to also go for a 2-1 win.
And we'd also love to know your score predictions for that game as well. So as always, let us know in the comments for that as well. But that is everything from today's episode. So after 2 back-to-back wins for Luton Town, we now sit level on Derby County as we look to pull ourselves out of the relegation zone. And from myself and from Adam, thank you very much for listening. And hopefully we'll be talking about another win come Saturday.